on the Parsha, the Zohar, on this week's Torah portion, the Parsha. And the Zohar is part 2, Chelik Beis, which begins in Shemos, the book of Exodus, the book of names. So the story that the Torah is describing in the book of Shemos, in the beginning of the book of Shemos, is the descent into exile. Abayim Mitzrayim, these are the people, these are the names of the tribes that entered into Mitzrayim, that entered into Egypt, a place of constriction and concealment and estrangement. Mitzrayim comes from the word Metzar, comes from a place of constricting. So it's talking about a people, and it's also a collective story and also an individual story, talking about a process of people entering into a state of exile, a state of deep existential, inauthentic self, being of self, a place of estrangement, a place of not knowing self, a place of not having das, not having awareness of self. And it talks about this on a collective level, and of course the Torah is also speaking to us at a very personal level about this process of what it means to enter or to be in a state of exile, to be in an unredeemed state, and the process of redemption. And the story, the way it unfolds, and this we'll read a little bit from the Zohar, from two parts of the Zohar in the beginning of this week's portion, the beginning of the Parsha. The Zohar, the Torah describes that the process of Klal Yisrael, the people of Israel's redemption, begins when Moshe Rabbeinu is standing at the burning bush, at the sneh. He says, I'll pause and I'll behold to see this wondrous event of the burning of the burning bush. And in that experience, he has this mystical inner experience. And he asks Hashem, what is your name? Remember, Shemos is all about names, or the lack of names, the lack of identities, finding your name. He says, what is the name? What is the divine name? And the response is that he receives is the name Aleph Hey Yud Hey Eka. Eya Sheya. This is the name, this is the highest name that's revealed at the story of the burning bush. This name corresponds to the sphere of Keser or to Bina. It's a very high level name. The translation of the name means I will be who I will be. Eka is a becoming, not a being, but a becoming. And that's the name that is being revealed to Moshe. And this is the clue. This name is the beginning process for the possibility of redemption. What does this mean inwardly? Because everything is reflected both on a cosmic level, on a macro level, and on a micro level. What does it mean on a micro level in our own personal lives? What does the name Eka mean? What does this name, divine name, mean? I will be, the name that is becoming. So there is a teaching by the Ari, by the Holy Arizal, which is more further unpacked by the Baal Shem Tov and the students, and the Baditcher brings it down, and the Maranayim brings it down, the Alter Rebbe brings it down, and the Siddur, that there's a kavanas of Baal Shem Tov on mikvah, there's intention of the Baal Shem Tov on mikvah, and essentially there are three positions or three properties within a mikvah. Mikvah means a ritual bath for purity, which means that a person is a state of stuckness, of impure, tameh, sasum, closed off from life. A person is stuck. And this could be also a literal sense of impurity, or it can mean, like the Zohar says, that a person should go to the mikveh if they experience anger because they lose their soul. But it means a person is very much stuck and rigid in a certain paradigm, a certain way of thinking, a certain way of being. And there's no fluidity in life, there's no movement in life, there's no expression. So the Torah says the person has to go into a mikveh, go into a ritual bath, and the way the Ari and the Baal Shem speak about this is that there are three basic intentions that a person has to have, and they're related to the three parts of the mikveh. The first part is that you have to have an intention to your feet that are touching the ground. The sacred name, the name of Hashem, it's connected to the ground. The ground of your being is the name Aleph, Dalet, Nun, Yud, Ado, and Noi, which is spells also the word Aleph Din, the idea of constriction. That is the reality of who you are right now. So when a person enters into the mikveh, whether this is a literal mikveh or a proverbial mikveh, like in the state of your consciousness, the first awareness is where am I right now? So to acknowledge that reality, to understand who I am at this moment and why am I feeling so frustrated and stuck in my life. That's the ground of my being. That's the reality of who I am. Then a person starts immersing themselves in the mikveh. So what they do is they lift up their feet, and now their intention should focus on the four sides of the water, or the four walls of the water, which is surrounding you, which the water represents Mayim She'en Sof, which is the idea of the Ein Sofius, the infinity, the name of Yud Kei Vav Kei, the name of Hashem, which represents infinity. So if the ground of your being is connected to your narrative, to who you are right now, in order to unstuck yourself, what you have to do is you have to let go of that. Let go of your narratives, let go of who you are, and just be in a place of infinity. So the idea of letting go. So I'll say, the reason why I'm angry is because X, Y, and Z, and now I'm just going to let go of that story. That's the Ein Sof. But purity, according to halacha, this is also alluded to in Tosfos, the idea of pure purity does not occur when a person is actually in the mikveh itself, but purity occurs when a person is emerging from the mikveh. As a person is emerging from the mikveh and exiting the mikveh, which means the tap, the water above his head or her head, when they're moving out of the mikveh, that's when the purity becomes. And what's the water right above the head? The water above the head is the name of Aleph He Yud Kei, which is Eka, which is the name of becoming. So the emergence of self is in a state of becoming. This is going to be where our purity comes. Let's try to understand what this is and go back to the name and understand this, exactly how this works. The reason why people are so stuck in their life and so immobile in terms of their development, whether it's emotional development or spiritual development or even physical development, is because they get stuck in a particular narrative. And the narrative is created through past events. And the way a person unfortunately, the way a lot of people live is they're living in the present moment, but they're always connected to their past. They're always enfolding the experiences of the present moment within the context of their past. And this is something that's negative. This is a negative thing. This is a klipa, because what that means is it's not allowing you to experience the present moment as it's potentially unfolding in this present, but you're always experiencing the now, the moment that's arising in the present moment, as if it's already part of the older narrative of your past. So and that's why the word avera, which literally means sin or transgress in the Torah, the root of the word avera is the word avar, is past, because past is narrative, and narrative of past narrative is what holds us back. So, for example, a person has a certain conception, a certain idea in their mind that they should be doing this in this world, and they were very successful doing this particular thing in this world for a certain period of time, and now they're having certain types of resistance, and they're no longer successful in doing the things that they were doing up until this point. Usually when this happens to a person becomes very frustrated and angry and anxious, because I was doing this and I was very successful, now I'm doing this and I'm no longer successful. So what stops the person from actually saying, yes, maybe up until 20 or to 30 or 40, I was doing this in my life, and that was the things that I was very successful in doing, but now the world, Hashem, is presenting a new reality to me in this present moment. It's saying now I have to let go of it and have to be in another place, do another thing. What holds me back from being open to life is my past narrative. So the past is what really holds us back, because it doesn't allow us to experience the present, the infinite present moment that's bringing new opportunities in the present, because we're always enfolding our present within the context of our past. And because we were used to particular things, or we have a certain narrative of the past, we expect that the effects of that past will be exactly the way we're going to live in the present. The Zohar in the beginning of this week's portion speaks about this idea a little bit when the Zohar says in Shemos Beis, right in the beginning of the Zohar of this week's Parsha, the Zohar says, Man deroga l'mispel tsar, Amr Shimon says, a person that's accustomed, a person that's used to experiencing pain, which means that's the story. Let's, whatever reason, this is what you expect of life, because this is what you're experiencing life up until now. Even if you're experiencing something new that's also painful, you won't be so discombobulated. You'll accept it more. But if someone that is experiencing one way and then is experiencing something else differently, then they experience pain. Which means that you sort of, most times, what you're doing in life, when you're living in the present moment, you're always trying to engage the present, the opportunities of the present, as if they're part of the context of the narrative of the past. And therefore, you're not allowing yourself to experience the present as it's unfolding, because new opportunities are being presented to you. You know, the story of for example, the story the way the Zohar explains it, and this is the way the Torah illustrates this narrative, is that the people are stuck in Egypt. They're stuck for hundreds of years in Egypt, and they never complain. Not only we don't complain, we don't hear a voice. We don't hear that they're ever saying this is painful. We'd want different. And the reason for that is because they became comfortable with that, and that's the way they expect their life to unfold. So this can be for positive and for negative. But you have a certain expectation, a certain narrative, a certain conception of how you think your life is, and you don't allow yourself to be open to the present moment that can present itself with new realities. This is the klipa of the narrative. In fact, the narrative, klipa only has a narrative. The definition of klipa, the definition of something that's negative, is that it's a narrative, and that it's already created in the past. There's a wonderful teaching for the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem says that in the story of the Megillah, where it talks about the story of the Queen of Esther, the story of the Megillah Purim story, where the king asks for Vashti, which metaphorically Vashti represents the queen of Klippa, the queen of negativity, and asks Vashti to come with the crown. And the way Chazal the Gemara says that this means that she should come only with the crown. She should come without her garments, and she doesn't appear, and the king is very upset at her. So the Baal Shem says it's not because of her modesty that she didn't want to show herself without the garments. We're talking about the symbolic image, or the archetype of what Vashti is. It's not because of modesty, but because Vashti represents Klippa, represents this negativity. And the Metzias of Vashti, the existence of Vashti, is a narrative, is a garment, is a story. And the moment the king is Hamelach, the king, asks for Vashti to appear without garments, Vashti doesn't exist. Not that she doesn't appear because she doesn't want to appear without her garments, because the Metzias, the existence of Vashti, is a narrative. The existence of Klippa is a story, is certain stories that we tell ourselves about who we are in this world. And those things most times hold us back because it doesn't allow us to experience what we should be experiencing at this very present moment. This is connected, the freedom of this idea is connected to the name of Aleph Hey Yud Hey, which is the name of becoming. The name becoming is the opening that allows us to experience the more, the possibility that's unfolding. Let's understand this a little bit more deeper through another piece of the Zohar, where Rav Shimon is talking about a particular verse, a pasuk, and then he says like this: Koil Amar Lidibur. Let's just read the words, and then I'll explain what this is. Try to unpack it a little bit. The koil, the voice, speaks, says to speech. This koil, this voice, sound. Sound is having a conversation with speech. So there's sound, there's the actual sound that you create, and then there's the speech that you create through that sound. And sound, voice, says to speech, iti. Be with me. Let's be together. Begin the hakoil asil ledibur medaber lebehedya lemehevik echada b'loy p'nur klal. Let's be as one without any separation. This is what the voice says to the world of speech. Begin the koil iu klau. So the Zohar said because the koil voice is the principle, the general. Dibur iu prat. Dibur, speech, is already the detail. Valda klau itzech leprat. And the principle needs the detail. Uprat itzech leklau. And the details need the principle. The less kol below dibur. Because there's no possibility for voice without speech. Veles dibur below kol. And there's no possibility for speech without sound, without voice. Now the truth is, part of the statement seems correct, which is that you cannot create speech without having voice. How is speech created? Speech is created, you take, or sound. You can't create dibur without kol. You can't create speech without sound, which means how is speech created? Speech is created as you have an unarticulated or undifferentiated sound, like an out-breath of sound. Then you use the 5 gevuras, the 5 potentials of the mouth, which is the palate, the teeth, the tongue, etc. And through the 5 potentials of the mouth, you break down sound, and that creates speech, that creates language. So when you say, let's say the letter, let's say gimel or G, whatever that sound is, or you say the word, let's say game or gmul, whatever the word that you're sounding, what you're doing is you're taking pure undifferentiated sound, you're using the 5 restrictions of your mouth to create particular sounds, and that particular sounds, when they're streamed together, create a word and create language. So the possibility of speech is only through sound. You can't have speech without sound. But why does the Zohar also say the less kol b'loy dibur? There is no voice, there is no sound without speech. You can have a voice without a speech. You can just say aha, or you can just take an out breath, which is sound without speech. So what does that actually mean? And what does this mean that this koil and dibur? So the Ari speaks about this in great length, the idea of the difference between koil and dibur, and the Arizal ties these two things, koil and dibur, to the name of Hashem and the name of Aleph Dalet Nun Yud. We said before that there are 3 names that we're going to understand. One is the name of the ground of your being, the state of reality of who you are right now in this present moment, which is the Aleph Dalet Nun Yud. Ado and Noi, which is the one name, which is like the Malchut, the Malchus, the thing that's holding, the container that's holding it. That's the world of speech. There's also the Yud Kei Vav Kei, the name of Hashem, or the Tetragrammaton, the higher name of Hashem, the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey, which represents Haya Haya V'yeh, past, present, future, infinity, which is Ein Sof, is the Kol. That's the voice in itself. So Kol is connected to Havaya, to the name of Hashem, and Dibur is connected to Adonai. It's connected to the lower name. We said there's also the third name, which is Havaya, is connected to Tiferes, and Eka, Aleph Hey Yud Hey, is connected to Bina Orvi and to Kesser. So there's a higher name. So there's, in the context of what we're saying now, there is the name of Dibur, that's connected to Aleph Dalet Nun Yud, and the name that's connected to Kol. What's the difference between these two things? What does it actually mean? Is that Kol, sound, what is sound? That every articulation of speech is rooted in the silence that precedes the language, in the potential that precedes the language. So and then there's the actuality, which is the language itself, which is the speech itself. So there is the world of the hidden and the world of the revealed, or the world of the potential and the world of the actual. So for example, let's say a person has an idea, they want to express this idea. So the way the person understands the idea within himself, within herself, is much more expansive and elaborate than the way they're going to express it through speech. Speech is, in a way, of course, speech is a medium through which I can reveal my thoughts through speech, but speech is also a concealment. It's a reduction. It's holding the thoughts in very small, in language, but it's a constriction of the original thought. You know, when sometimes when you tell over a person an idea, the way it exists within your mind, and you tell it over to another person, and you see the person's not responding in the same way because you feel like you're not really conveying the full power of that idea through the world of speech. Because speech, by definition, is already a limitation, a concealment, a aleph, daled, nun, yud, a adnai, a concealment, a din of the original idea, the way it exists within your mind. So there is the way the thing exists within its potential, the potential of this idea, the potential of this thought, and its infinite sort of, not literally, but in its infinite expansiveness, which is the world of coil, a voice. And then when it's articulated through the world of speech, that's already when it's reduced into a particular thing. So there's the world of the potential, the infinite potential, the way it exists within coil, which is voice, sound, and the way it is expressed in speech is the way it's already expressed in its actuality, and it's already its finite form. Redemptive speech is the yichud between Havaya and Adnai, the unification between these two names, which is the unification, like the Zohar says, it's the unification between Koil and Dibur. The Koil says to the Dibur and says, let us be iti, let us be together. That will be a redemption of speech, because Klal Yisrael, in the grand understanding, metaphor of the story of the Exodus and the story of the exile into Mitzrayim, is that there's a golus hadibur, there's a constriction of speech. And the constriction of speech is not that they don't speak. Of course they spoke. But the Torah doesn't say that they're speaking, because they're not speaking words of redemption. They're speaking the words of exile. And what that means is not only they're not speaking about their redemption, and not imagining the possibility of the redemption, but the words that they're using is unredemptive. The difference between a redemptive way of speaking and a constricted way of speaking is whether the speech is unified with voice, with its potential, or the speech stands on its own, separate from its potential. Is it an actual without a potential, or there's within the actuality there's always the potential? What this means, I'll explain what this means. For example, there's a teaching from the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem HaKadosh writes that it says tzaddik atam yifrach, that a tzaddik, a righteous person, a sage, an enlightened person, katama yifrach, that the words of a tzaddik or the life of a tzaddik will multiply. Yifrach will flower like a cedar tree. That katama yifrach. So the Baal Shem says that what is the definition of a tzaddik, or how do you know what's a sign that when you hear something you heard it from the person that is a tzaddik, is when the ideas that they express to you will continuously flower new ideas within your own imagination. So when the words spoken actually ignites further imagination. A real way of knowing, for example, whether you're hearing words that are connected to kedusha, holiness, which is the idea of flow and movement and furthering life and life affirming and moving things forward, or whether you're hearing words of klipa, which are dead words, is sometimes you hear an idea from somebody, and it's actually a pretty interesting idea. You hear the idea, what this person is saying, and you say, okay, that's a great idea. And the idea stops with the idea, the way it was expressed. That's not yifrach. That's not flowering. That's not growing. That's not multiplying. It exists as the thought, as the idea, the way it exists within itself. But sometimes you read something, you hear something, and the person says something, and then after you hear what the person says, for the next 2 days, you're just overwhelmed, or for the next few hours, you're overwhelmed with what that person says. And because of what the words that the person says, you constantly are thinking of new ideas connected to those words. That means that the person gave over to you, in the words that they spoke, they gave over to you not only the dibur, which is the concealment of the thought, and the thought as it is, but they were able to give also the coil. They were also able to give over the potential of the thought, or the infinite expanse of the thought within the speech. And therefore, when you receive the world of the speech, what you're also receiving from that is also the world of the kol, the world of the sound, which is infinite. So therefore, when you hear those words, it opens you up, and you hear more and more and more, and it constantly flowers. So what the Zohar is saying is, and when it says that there was a golus of dibur, there was a lack of speech in Egypt, and this means in our own personal lives, is that sometimes we speak and we say words and we fill we fill the ear with a lot of noise, but it's pedestrian. It's mechanical type of speech. It's like we're speaking like a manual, which is, do this. If we're having a conversation with somebody, do this, don't do that, be here, don't come here. Like very functional. Come for dinner, don't come for dinner, I'll see you later, don't see me later, which is the idea of I'm expressing dibur, but the dibur has no call within it. I'm expressing speech, but the speech is only actual, it's only functional, and it doesn't have the place of the potential. That is enslavement. That's internal enslavement. The internal place of deep exile and a deep state of inner trauma, of lack of expression, is when a person has no inner life. When there's nothing inward, there's no call that's being expressed in the dibur. There's no inwardness. There's no potential that's being expressed in the actual. They're only expressing things in an actual state. On the other hand, when speech is connected to the world of the potential, so you hear within that speech, you're always hearing the potential of the idea, the infinity of that idea that's being expressed in the speech. Think about it. You'll notice that there's sometimes when you speak to somebody, and it's an intelligent person, or you had an interesting conversation, sometimes the conversation expands life, adds things, and creates something new. It generates things. Even if you're sitting and talking small talk, it's possible, because it's generating love or affection and friendship, whatever it's generating, but it's generating more. Or sometimes it's just very functional. It's like you're going to a teller at a bank, and it's very just, okay, here's the amount of money I put in depositing, here's the amount of money I want. That's a very functional, that's a place of person that's in a very constricted state, in a state of that there is no inner life. When a person starts talking like that forever, and in all functions of life, and all relationships of life, they're talking in a way that's very functionality. This is a world of just the actual. So there's the world of the actual, which is the world as is, which goes back to the name of Aleph, Dalet, Nun, Yud, which you said is the ground of your being, the floor that you're standing on, which is who you are. Then there's also the coil and its potential, infinite light, infinite creative light from Hashem of the Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's a potential and actual. And then there's going to be the third element, which is the idea of becoming, which is the marriage. We'll say in a moment, which is the marriage, the unity between these two. In order for two things to become together, there has to be a third that unifies these two. This idea of this potential and this actual is also expressed in the beginning of the new year, which is the idea of this chachas, the renewal of the new year, when we receive new blessings for the coming year. So the way we enact and celebrate Rosh Hashanah, Mitzvah Yom HaShofar, the way we celebrate Rosh Hashanah, beginning of the new year, is through the sounding of the shofar. What is the sound of the shofar? The sound of the shofar is, like the Baal Shem writes, and the Alter Rebbe brings down in the Siddur. What is the sound of the shofar? What is this sound? The sound is the kol pashat, is the essential sound. This is the infinite sound, the sound of potential of the coming year, the blessings that we're going to receive in the coming year. So the way we enact, and technically we do this for other reasons, but technically we should blow the shofar immediately in the morning, for the first thing in the morning, right? When we wake up in the morning, we should blow the shofar. Because it was a exile. There's other reasons why this is not done, but that was originally the way it was done, as it's the mitzvah of the Torah. So you should do it right away in the morning. It's just a makdimim. So you should blow the shofar, which is the sound, the world of koil, and then immediately after you do the koil, after you create the sound, what you right away do is you marry the sound of the potential of the coming new year, the blessings that you're going to receive, the infinite blessings that you're going to receive in the coming year, and you immediately attach it to dibur, to speech. And then for the next 5 hours, or how long you pray, how long as you daven on Rosh Hashanah, for the next many, many hours, you have the whole machzor, which all you're doing is speaking. You're speaking your prayers. You're doing dibur. And that's why tefillah, davening, prayer is important that we speak the words. It's not only that we have the meditation and we have an idea, a thought process of creating these ideas and connecting to the Ein Sof and bringing down these blessings that we wish for ourselves, but we have to speak it, because the speaking is making the potential into actual. This is what the Zohar says. The prat, the detail, the language, the dibur, which is the actual, needs the potential, needs the voice, because you cannot create speech throughout voice. And the Zohar says also the opposite is also true, that the klal needs the prat. The voice needs the voice needs the language, needs the speech, because if the voice is not married to language, then you have a lot of potential, but you don't have anything that's actual. Where is the marriage of the potential and the actual? That's in the name of Eka. That's in the name of becoming, which is the emergence out of the Eka, when you're moving out. What does that mean? Because what does it mean to marry the potential and the actual? Besides the idea of speaking from a place, from an authentic place, speaking from a place of potential being expressed within the actual, so the words always are continuously overflowing, is that the ground of your being is who you are, and you're stuck. That's the narrative. That's the klipa we say. That's the din. That's the constriction. You want to get out of that. So you let go of it. And you say, okay, I'm just in the place of pure potential, and I'm open to life. If you don't now assume a healthy narrative in the present, not in the past, but in the present, and constantly unfolding present, and constantly the narrative that's constantly being rewritten at every moment, the autobiographical part of life that's constantly being written, then you don't have a story either. You have nothing. If you just have the place of the actual, which is the mechanical, the narrative, the past, then you're stuck. It's tuma. Then you're standing on the ground and you're not pure. And there's no way to engage in life because you're just in the place of the actual. You're just in the place of the mechanical. If you let go of that and you say, okay, I'm not part of my narrative. It's not who I am. Let's say my narrative is that I'm a singer, I'm a dancer, I'm a writer, I'm a rabbi, I'm a lawyer. I don't know, whatever your narrative is. I'm a housewife, I'm a mother, I'm a father, whatever the narrative is. You say, okay, I'm getting very stuck in this narrative and it's really pulling me down, and everything I'm unfolding, all the present experiences I'm having in my life is I'm unfolding within my past, so therefore I'm going to let go of everything. Okay, that's the first step. But then you have to re-engage in life. And the re-engagement in life means I'm engaging in life with an openness for what life has to offer at this present moment, or to say it on a much deeper level, what Hashem has to offer me at this very present moment. That's the state of becoming. The becoming is that I'm not just in pure potential, but I marry the potential with the actual and say, in this state that I'm now right this present moment, what is Hashem telling me to do right in this present moment? Maybe yesterday Hashem told me to do this, and today Hashem is telling me to do that. Every single relationship that I have, the moment I look at a person and I see them for who they were yesterday, then I'm not giving them the opportunity for them to be presented in this present moment, and something different can unfold. If I look at my husband or my wife or my mother or my father or my child or my coworker or my friends or whoever I look at in this world, if I look at them the exact same way that I looked at them the day before, then I'm taking their present moment and unfolding it within their past, and therefore there's no possibility for movement. It's just the actual, and I'll never have any potential for something else. The way to truly engage in life in a very healthy and redemptive way is to say, every single moment I meet this person, even though I met this person 1,000 times, is as if I'm meeting this person for the first time. Yes, yesterday maybe you did this to me, and yesterday you were not successful, and yesterday I was frustrated because this is what you did to me, and this is what you told me. And I have certain expectations. I think this is what's going to work, but I believe in the possibility of the new you right this moment, in the you that's becoming. And when we engage in this world, with everything in this world, whether it's people or it's life or it's our own experiences, whether it's the life that we're living, when we're constantly engaged in the world with a sense of wonder, a sense of newness, of ischachus, of renewal, that every single moment is another opportunity. We're no longer stuck in our past. This is what it means to live in the name of Eka, to live with the name of the becoming. To live with the name of the becoming is not to live in a place of actual, not to live in a place of potential, but to live in the potential that's actualizing at every single moment from new. And therefore, every experience that we have, we're always open to the experience and saying, wow, I met you today for the first time. That's amazing. Who are you? Or I met my work today. And what type of work am I doing? And I met my spouse today. I met my child today. And the moment we live with that sense of wonder, of openness, to be open to the state of becoming, we're free. And that's the way we achieve this type of freedom. And the Torah is telling us, this grand narrative, the Torah is telling us that some life presents itself this way. The name of Hashem, the name of Eke is always present. The burning bush, like the Sasemis and others tzaddikim write, the burning bush is a reality that always exists. Asna'ena ukol is always the presence of Hashem in the place of hardship. And the hardship is still there, and it's not ukol, it's not destroyed, it's not consumed. The name Eke is always appearing in this world. The name of Hashem is always appearing to us at every single moment. The question is, are we going to asur of eretz mara? Are we going to stop and pause and recognize the wonder, the miracle, the opportunity that's being presented to us every single moment from new? And the moment we start living this way, we're experiencing name Eke. And Hashem says in the Torah, this is what the Torah says, is sometimes you're going to get it on your own. God willing, you're going to live this way, and it's going to be effective in a way that you can experience it every single moment, and you don't need any external things. Sometimes it's going to be in a way that you're going to be really stuck. Hashem says, I'm going to gift you that gift of freedom. I'm going to bring you out of Egypt and redeem you. And that's what we say every single day, every single moment. A person has to imagine himself as if they're leaving Egypt. Every single day. Every single moment a person's leaving Egypt, which means every single moment we have the opportunity to let go and be free and be alive. Have a wonderful Shabbos.